All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're getting into the mind of the preacher, the ancient voice behind the incredible book of Ecclesiastes. We're going to journey through 5 of its most powerful chapters to explore some really profound and, let's be honest, often challenging wisdom on the biggest questions in life. Wealth, justice, wisdom, and of course, death. So here's our roadmap for today. We're going to start with the preacher's takedown of wealth, then get into his really surprising take on sorrow and wisdom. From there, we'll wrestle with justice and power, face the hard reality of death, and then we'll land on some incredibly practical advice about the real weight of our everyday choices. It's a fascinating journey from these huge, abstract questions right down to daily life. They kick things off in chapter 6, where the preacher is really zeroing in on a common, super frustrating evil that he sees everywhere under the sun. This paradox of having everything you could ever want, but enjoying none of it. The preacher immediately nails this problem that feels so modern, right? He's not saying wealth itself is bad. No, he's pointing to a really deep irony. You can be given everything, money, success, respect, but still not have the ability to actually enjoy it. That disconnect is what he calls vanity. The Hebrew word is hevel, which literally means vapor or smoke. It's something you can see, but you just can't grab it. It's a frustrating, totally empty feeling. And this feeling of never being satisfied, well, that's just part of being human. He says we work to fill our stomachs, but our appetite, that deep longing in our soul, is never really full. And it doesn't matter if you're wise or foolish. This constant chase is just exhausting. So what's his advice? Focus on the sight of the eyes. Basically, find contentment in what's right in front of you instead of chasing after endless desires. This isn't him being a downer, it's him being a realist. It's about knowing we aren't in total control and we have to learn to live within our limits. Okay, so let's move on to chapter 7 and see how he builds on this. After showing us the limits of material things, the preacher now shifts his focus. He starts searching for real wisdom in a world that is, clearly imperfect and often pretty painful. And right here, we get one of his most jarring pieces of advice. He says it's actually better to go to a funeral, the house of mourning, than it is to go to a party. I know, it sounds pretty grim, but think about his logic. A party is just a distraction, right? The laughter of fools. But a funeral forces us to face our own mortality, the end of all men. And that sober moment of reflection, he argues, is what really makes us better and teaches us what actually matters in life. This perspective leads him to even more practical advice. Look at what he says about anger. Be not hasty in thy spirit to be angry. And why not? Because that kind of flash-in-the-pan reactive anger, that resteth in the bosom of fools. He's saying it's not a sign of strength. It's a sign that you lack control. Patience, on the other hand, is where the real strength and wisdom are. And this brings us to another one that might make you scratch your head. Be not righteous over much. What on earth does that mean? Well, he's warning us against a kind of self-destructive perfectionism. A rigid, proud, holier-than-thou attitude can be just as damaging as being a bad person. The path of wisdom isn't about being perfect, it's about finding a balanced walk that's grounded in a humble fear of God, a deep respect for the one who's truly in charge. Okay, now in chapter 8, we zoom out a bit. The focus widens from just personal wisdom to the social and political world around us. The preacher starts to tackle the tension between powerful human rulers and the fact that, a lot of the time, it seems like divine justice is nowhere to be found. And here, the preacher asks a question that I think we all still ask today. If God is just, why isn't justice, speedier? Why does it seem like the wicked get away with so much? He sees a really dangerous psychological effect. When the consequences for doing bad things are delayed, he says the heart of the sons of men is fully set in them to do evil. It's a frustrating and frankly dangerous reality of the world. So his advice for how to live in this unjust world is super pragmatic. When you're dealing with earthly power, like a king, he basically says, be smart. Obey the rules, know the right time and place to make your move, and don't be needlessly rebellious. But he balances all that practical advice with a huge dose of cosmic humility. He reminds us that even the most powerful king on earth can't control the day he dies or truly understand the full scope of what God is doing. But despite all the chaos and all the injustice he sees, the preacher holds on to this one core conviction. He might not know how or when it's all going to work out, but he is absolutely sure that in the end, things will go well for those who revere God. I mean, that's a massive statement of faith, especially when all the evidence seems to point the other way. And this unwavering belief in some kind of ultimate order leads him straight into chapter 9, a really powerful and sobering look at the one great equalizer that is waiting for every single one of us: death itself. Yeah, the preacher pulls absolutely no punches here. He says that one event happens to everyone, the righteous and the wicked, the clean and the unclean. It doesn't matter how you live your life, you face the exact same end. From our limited, under-the-sun point of view, death is the ultimate, indiscriminate force that just erases all the moral and social lines we draw in the sand. But, and this is so important, this harsh reality doesn't lead him to despair. Not at all. It leads to one of the most powerful pivots in the entire book. If death is the end of all our earthly work, then the time to actually live is right now. He gives this famous command: go your way, eat your bread with joy, and drink your wine with a merry heart. This isn't just about partying, it's about accepting the simple, daily gifts of life as your portion from God, right here, right now. The preacher's point is that knowing we're going to die shouldn't make us sad, it should make us diligent. He gets super specific. Enjoy your food. Live with joy. Those white garments were a symbol of celebration. Cherish the people you love. And whatever job is in front of you, do it with everything you've got. And why? Because there's no working or planning or thinking in the grave. The only time you have to act is now. And just as a final, humbling reminder in this chapter, he points out that even our best efforts don't guarantee success. Life is unpredictable. Things beyond our control, what he calls time and chance, play a huge role. It just reinforces the need for both humility and for enjoying the journey, not just waiting for the destination. So for our final section, chapter 10, the preacher brings all these huge cosmic themes right back down to earth. He goes from the philosophical to the practical, giving us a whole series of sharp contrasts between everyday wisdom and everyday foolishness. The chapter kicks off with this incredibly vivid image. Just one dead fly can make an entire bottle of expensive perfume stink. And in the same way, he says a little folly, just one foolish act, can totally ruin the reputation of someone who's known for being wise. It's such a powerful warning that even our smallest choices can have massive consequences. And throughout this whole chapter, he just lays out these sharp contrasts over and over again. Wisdom leads to skill in the right direction, the right hand. Folly just leads to clumsiness and self-destruction. The words of the wise bring grace, but a fool gets trapped by his own speech. And this principle, it applies to everything from our personal lives all the way up to who's running the country. The chapter is just packed with these practical guidelines for how to live wisely. He tells you to use patience to de-escalate a conflict with a ruler. He warns against laziness, saying it leads to decay. He even warns you not to curse the powerful in your own bedroom, because, as he says, a bird of the air might carry your voice. The whole point is that wisdom is a way more effective tool than just brute strength or carelessness. And so the preacher's journey through these chapters leaves us right here, with his final challenging question. He's shown us the limits of wealth, the flaws in our justice system, and the absolute certainty of death. He doesn't give us any easy answers. Instead, he seems to suggest that maybe real wisdom isn't about figuring everything out. Maybe it's about revering God, accepting our own limitations, and just embracing the life he's given us with as much joy and purpose as we can muster.